Records fall across Southern California today in Chula Vista, San Diego, Escondido, and other cities as extreme heat and Santa Ana winds bake much of the region.
They don't really treat us like we're in a bad situation, and I don't act like we're in a bad situation or think we're in a bad situation. I think we're actually in a house, because that's how they treat us.
They're not in homes, but they're off the streets. We check in with residents of a temporary tent camp downtown and talk to organizers about its surprising makeup. And San Diego's newest National League team will be surfacing soon. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. The extreme heat we're feeling in San Diego today kept fire crews on high alert and got school kids out early. Erin Calandra has the highs around the county.
It's very hot and dry here today. Those Santa Ana conditions continue. We're seeing wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour in those foothills in the valleys and also in some mountain passes. It's also extremely hot, well above average temperatures. We have a heat alert for anyone here in Orange. San Diego, 97 degrees today. That's just smashing our average temperature of 72. It broke the record. It was set back in 1965 at 94 degrees. El Cajon, 106 today, should be around 80 degrees. That's a record-breaking temperature. And Chula Vista, 103 today, should be 75 degrees. That is another record-breaking. We'll have your full forecast here in just a few minutes.
A handful of moms and their kids found some relief from the heat at the old Trolley Barn Park. They cooled off under shady trees in University Heights. Betsy Musabi says even on hot days, she and her children find cool places to hang out.
Usually we head someplace cool. We go to IKEA. We go to, where do we go to? Someplace indoor or near the beach. Stay out of the sun.
San Diego Unified is planning another half day of classes tomorrow. The district puts more than 80 schools on short schedules on extra hot days because of lack of air conditioning. Regional global temperatures are increasing the number of extreme heat days during the summer in California and the rest of the nation. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says as the temperatures rise, so do public health risks.
The Natural Resources Defense Council report track days where the temperatures are hotter than 90% of a typical summer day measured. It counted the number of those days in June, July, and August, and the Natural Resources Defense Council study found that San Diego had 9 to 14 extreme heat days. Imperial County had more than 14. Now, the Extreme Heat Index calculates a region's hottest 10% of temperatures, and then it measures how often that range was reached. The Center for Public Health's Linda Rudolph says communities need to take steps to protect people who are vulnerable to extreme heat.
Map heat risks and vulnerable heat populations to make sure cooling centers are in the right locations, and build social cohesion so that neighbors are looking out for the isolated and elderly that are at most risk of heat deaths.
Now, incidentally, the index doesn't measure extreme heat during September or October. Those are the two hottest months in this region. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
The County Board of Supervisors voted today to extend an emergency declaration over the hepatitis A outbreak. The board also directed staff to prepare a letter to Governor Brown requesting disaster relief assistance. So far, the county has spent $4 million fighting the outbreak and says it will cost $2 million a month to continue those efforts. The outbreak has sickened more than 500 people in the San Diego area since last November. 19 people have died. It's been 2 weeks since the opening of a campground for homeless people near downtown San Diego. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy spent some time at the camp talking to people about how things are going so far. She says one thing nobody was expecting is the large number of children who've moved in.
For dozens of children in San Diego, a city parking lot covered in tents is the best option they have right now for a home.
They feed us. They give us clothes, they give us shoes.
10-year-old Azara Anjos was sleeping in a downtown park before moving to the homeless transitional camp with her parents and 6 siblings.
It wasn't very comfortable because we would lay in the grass, but then we would have to move off the grass and onto concrete because the, you know what they're called, the sprinklers would come on. But the lights at the park never turned off, so it was like, turn off. So we all put our heads under the blankets.
At 4.5 feet tall with brown shoulder-length hair and big brown eyes, Anjo says from the moment she moved into her new green tent, she has felt cared for.
They don't really treat us like we're in a bad situation, and I don't act like we're in a bad situation or think we're in a bad situation. I think we're actually in a house, because that's how they treat us.
The temporary campsite is filled with nearly 150 tents, along with showers and toilets, hand-washing stations, and shuttle transportation. There are also on-site health workers, housing navigators, and meals. One of the most popular amenities is a play area with toys and games for kids. That's because of the 200 people who live at the camp, almost a quarter of them are children.
They're safe. That's the key.
Alpha Project CEO Bob McElroy, who manages the camp, says the large number of children was not expected.
We had no idea that we'd be at 40 kids and 10 families or so, but we're making it happen. The kids help out around here. They're dolls, and living in not the best case scenario, but they're safe. They have access to health care. We get some decent meals in here.
McElroy has worked to help homeless people for 30 years. He says the children have given him a renewed purpose and somewhat of a new role.
Grandpa.
They seem to understand he's the one providing their lifeline.
This?
That door.
Oh, inside that door?
Yeah.
I don't go in there because those people in there, they try and make me work. I'd rather hang out here with you.
McElroy says overall, the camp is running smoothly thanks to his staff of 30. They work around the clock taking care of people and keeping resources flowing.
I'm trying to get the lunches here, kids, and everybody's hungry.
But he says there have been plenty of challenges, including transporting 200 people to downtown and getting kids to school and back.
But when I come down and hang out with the kids, it keeps me showing up.
Children are not the typical face of San Diego's homeless population. They're rarely seen panhandling or pushing overstuffed carts. But a count taken in January found nearly 1,000 homeless children in the county, with more than 150 sleeping on the streets. Christine Wade and her 6 children, with one on the way, have been struggling with homelessness for 3 years. The family moved into the camp the morning it opened.
It was a beautiful moment because being out there's too hard, So when they came to get us, I was like, it was like a moment of finally,
Wade, a 31-year-old San Diego native, says the kids are sleeping pretty well and getting their daily routine down. That includes school and preschool.
I'm grateful for everything that we get, because I didn't think that I was going to get help ever. I thought I was going to continue to just try to make it on my own.
It's a sentiment shared by many at the camp. Families say they're pulling together to help one another.
It's nice for the kids to be able to talk to other kids and the parents to be able to talk to other parents.
35-year-old Abra Tao and her family also moved into the camp 2 weeks ago.
We are in a better place than on the streets, but there's still people with issues, and it can be concerning.
She and her 2 daughters, ages 5 and 7, sleep in one tent. Her husband sleeps in his own tent in a section with other men. During the first few days, Tao says she was worried about how this experience would impact her children, but not so much anymore.
They are going to change the world. They are learning right now what I'm learning at 35. And they are smart and strong, and that's what they're going to get out of it.
Little Azara Anjos has been writing about her camp experience and interviewing people she meets.
She has blue eyes, only sings for fun.
She'll likely live at the campground a couple more months until her family can transition into a place with a front door and walls. She says she'll always remember the friends she made and the time she lived amid rows of tents.
How grateful I am for and how well they took care of me and how well they took care of my family and treated us.
Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
Should San Diego Gas and Electric's customers pay $379 million in costs related to lawsuits from the 2007 wildfires? State regulators are set to address that question this week. Today, I spoke with KPBS investigative reporter Amita Sharma about why people are so angry about SDG&E wanting ratepayers to pick up the tab.
Well, I've spoken to a lot of ratepayers over the years about this issue, and I think it comes down to accountability, responsibility, and fairness. After those 2007 wildfires, the state opened an investigation, and that inquiry found that it was SDG&E's lines that ignited the firestorms. The investigators did not stop there, and this is key. The investigators said that those fires started because SDG&E did not properly design, build, and maintain its equipment. So for those people who are around now who remember that fact, they find it particularly galling for SDG&E to then come back and ask ratepayers to cover the costs of those fires. Fires that killed 2 people, destroyed 1,300 homes, and caused $2 billion worth of damage to this region.
Now, SDG&E has asked state regulators twice before to allow the company to charge customers for the 2007 wildfire cost. Twice they were refused. This year, SDG&E asked again. A trial was held, and what happened?
Evidence was presented. 2 administrative law judges, S. Pat Sen and Sasha Goldberg, decided that SDG&E should not be allowed to recover those wildfire costs because, and again, this is key, in the judges' words, SDG&E did not reasonably manage and operate its facilities prior to the 2007 wildfires. I spoke with a ratepayer by the name of Ruth Hendricks. She owns a restaurant called The Huddle in San Diego. Here is what she thinks about SDG&E's repeated requests to get ratepayers to cover the 2007 wildfire costs.
It's very unfair. We've already solved this problem, and I don't think it's fair that they come back to the ratepayers to pay for their expenses.
So the judges issued this decision. It's up to the 5 commissioners on the PUC to accept or reject it, and that's supposed to happen on Thursday. But SDG&E has been lobbying the commission since the judges' decision. So what is happening there?
Well, as you said, since the judge's decision, SDG&E representatives have met privately with the staff of each and every one of those public utilities commissioners. The company has argued that that judge's decision was full of legal and factual errors. I spoke with consumer lawyer Mike Aguirre, who has challenged SDG&E's attempts to get reimbursement for those 2007 wildfire costs, and he believes that those meetings with the commissioners may end up turning the tide against ratepayers.
So imagine if you're sitting there and you're a party to a jury trial, and the jury comes back, and the judge reads the verdict, and the other side says, "Oh no, don't read the verdict yet. Let us go back and talk to you, and let us go back and talk to the jury, and let us bring some more people in that will be able to make arguments for us." And that's what it's a complete travesty.
Amitha, if the PUC gives SDG&E the green light to charge ratepayers, how much does that amount to?
It's about $1.67 a month, amortized over 6 years. Again, I talked to Ruth Hendricks, the ratepayer who owns the restaurant called The Huddle, about how she views that increase.
Well, they're saying $1.67 a month. I think that they'll probably find other ways to increase that $1.67 a month. I am a small business owner. We live here from hand to mouth. We're a mom and pop operation. I also founded and run a nonprofit, and how it's going to affect us is, I think, more than $1.67 a month.
So, Amitha, what does SDG&E say about all of this?
Well, an SDG&E spokeswoman says, look, the company has kept track of its wildfire expenses since 2007. So far, it has paid out $2.4 billion to settle 2,500 lawsuits stemming from those wildfires, and the $379 million that it is asking ratepayers to cover is what is said to be the balance after deductions for insurance reimbursements.
Amitha Sharma, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ebony.
President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to resume admitting refugees into the U.S. after a 4-month ban on those admissions. The order calls for additional screenings for refugees from 11 countries. KPBS reporter Tara Minto has more on the end of the ban.
The ban halted refugee resettlement for 120 days while the administration evaluates security measures. Now, it's unclear how the lifting of the ban would affect San Diego, which has been a leader in refugee resettlement. That's partly because October is the first month of the new fiscal year and is typically a slower time for arrivals. And the U.S.'s ceiling on refugees is set at a record low of 45,000. Any additional security measures could also slow the flow of refugees. A county official referred questions to resettlement agencies but said it has not received any information from government agencies about the impact of the ban's expiration. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
Scientists at the Salk Institute will lead a $25 million study to catalog brain cells and what they do. KPBS editor Tom Fudge has the story.
Our study is to really try to understand at the molecular level the distinction between different types of cells in your brain.
Brain cells are not all the same, and the scientists have just begun to identify them and the ways in which they're different. The Salk Institute is now part of a project funded by the National Institutes of Health that aims to develop what they're calling an atlas of brain cell types. The goal? To identify what cells exist in the brain, how they function, and how they dysfunction, such as in the cases of mental illness or Alzheimer's disease. One of the leaders of the project compared it to coming up with a parts list like you would do for a car or a computer. The project builds on research Salk has done to understand the genetic structure of brain cells. Research will be done on the brains of mice. This effort to catalog brain cells includes researchers from UC San Diego and USC. Tom Fudge, KPBS News.
San Diego's pro lacrosse team is going to be called the Seals. Today, the San Diego National Lacrosse League team announced its name, logo, and colors. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman was in La Jolla for today's big reveal.
Yeah, Ebony, that's right. Surfacing soon is the tagline that they're using to promote the new team. But yeah, you're right, the San Diego Seals. It's the new lacrosse team here in San Diego. They just did their big reveal today on top of the La Jolla Cove and Suites. It was a hot one, but the team got creative using the La Jolla Cove and putting the logo in the ocean. It's a gray seal with a yellow crown. Now the team's colors are going to be gray, purple, gold, and black. Today, San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer, the San Diego Padres, and Goals were all here supporting the new team's announcement. Now remember, this team isn't starting play until 2018. The Seals say the next big step for them is going to be hiring a general manager, getting jerseys and merchandise ready for sale, then actually signing a team and some players. Now this is the first national lacrosse team on the West Coast, and they know they're going to have to do some big things to win over fans who might not be familiar with the sport.
It's fast, it's exciting. Take the action of the NHL and the hard passion of the NFL, the hitting, and you've got the National Lacrosse League. On average, 27, 28 goals a game. So again, constant action across the floor.
Now the owner of this team is Joe Tsai. He's the co-founder at Alibaba, one of the largest companies in the world. Tsai's worth $9 billion, and unfortunately he tried making it here today but just didn't work out with his schedule. But the team tells us they expect him to go to a lot of games next year. Here in La Jolla, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
It felt like the perfect time to catch waves in North County. Surfers on the water in Oceanside this morning around 8. KPBS North County reporter Allison St. John says it was already heating up to 80 degrees by then, and as pelicans watched all the action, they found some shade along the pier. We've got one more day of high temperatures ahead. Let's check back in with Erin Calandra.
Good evening. Hopefully everybody had a nice day today. You probably noticed it's a bit windy out there today. We're seeing gusts through the canyons up to 50 miles per hour. So both hands on the steering wheel if you're driving through the canyons and those highways. We have a red flag warning to tell you about. It's very hot and dry here in Southern California. So all of this red or hot pink color here in San Diego County, this is where we're seeing red flag warnings into Wednesday. We're also having some heat alerts across the county, mainly mainly the coast and moving inland a bit. Excessive heat, we are seeing temperatures well above average and even record-breaking temperatures. Looking across Southern California and into the deserts, it's pretty dry. We don't have any precipitation. A high-pressure system's in place, keeping us hot, dry, and in some very extreme conditions as far as heat and also those winds and wildfires. For tonight, 70 degrees. It's going to be nice and clear. And across the region, Oceanside 57 and in Ramona 63 degrees. Taking a look at Wednesday, it's going to stay pretty hot here and dry, but we will have some changes. Temperatures are going to slowly start dropping. Not tomorrow, though. 98 in Ramona, Poway 103, San Diego 92, and Oceanside 91. Of course, we should be in the low 70s this time of year, so extremely hot. Taking a look across the country, the Plains states, pretty cold. We have a dip in the jet stream, and then the Midwest into the Ohio Valley seeing some rain. Along the coast here, we're at 91 Wednesday, and then slowly dropping. By the weekend, we're going to be in the low 80s, staying dry and sunny. Inland, 103 on Wednesday. Dangerously hot. Make sure you're staying hydrated. Temperatures again dropping. We're going to be in the low 90s by the weekend. In the mountains, if you can escape there, well, that's certainly the place to be. It's going to be in the 70s. Very pleasant and sunny. And in the deserts, cooler than it is inland. We're in the upper 90s, but not reaching the 100s and staying dry. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
Penn State University students participate in a contest to condense years of research into a 2-minute pitch. In tonight's SciTech Report, producer Bill Hallman says the event has been dubbed Science Speed Dating.
The Millennium Science Complex at Penn State is home to some mind-blowing science. But if you don't live it and breathe it every day, trying to understand some of the work that happens here can leave you with a headache. That's why these Penn State grad students are attempting to turn years' worth of research into a 2-minute pitch for the Millennium Cafe Pitch Competition. It's a big draw, 36 contestants eyeing a $750 first place prize. But to get the cash, they'll need to convince the judges by coming up with a clear message about the importance and impact of their research. Something that doesn't come naturally.
The fight against the evil society of greenhouse gases. Gotta stay tuned to find out.
In the sciences, you work from the smallest detail down to the biggest picture. That's typically how you structure your scientific message. But in this type of pitch competition's just the opposite. You start with the biggest picture, and then you kind of go into the nitty-gritty details.
The high-pressure speed dating setup doesn't help either.
3, 2, 1, start!
Take a quick look around, you'll notice different styles. From the casual coffee chat to superheroes. It may seem like fun and games, but a contest like this is all about molding the next generation of scientists and leaders.
It's a great opportunity for students to develop skill sets in communications. Really, aside from technical prowess, technical background, we find communication skills are critically important. You'll see some people that really rise to the top that have this natural talent that maybe was even unknowns to them.
After the first round, scores are tallied and the top 5 are announced. Nerves are high.
Please wait a second.
But this is the finals.
I'm a little bit nervous. Okay.
The pitches are finely tuned.
If you could have an invisibility cloak, what would you use it for?
And the best grab your attention from the very beginning.
It's estimated that over 600,000 people will die from cancer this year. To fight this, I am creating personalized surgical tools to customize cancer treatment for each individual.
A clear message with a real-world impact front and center. For that, Brad Hanks walked away with the top prize. But like his pitch, he's focused on the big picture.
I have to contribute some, at least to my wife. She helped me practice a ton, and I have 2 little boys at home, so I'm sure some of it will go towards diapers and whatever else they need.
Game 1 of the World Series is getting underway in L.A. tonight. The Dodgers are taking on the Houston Astros. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh has the details.
Tonight, the Dodgers are hoping for a repeat of the last time they played at Game 1 of the World Series. In 1988, they were trailing in the 9th inning with 2 outs when an ailing Kirk Gibson came to the plate.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone!
That was the voice of Vin Scully. The Dodgers went on to win in 5 games that year. After losing in the playoffs last year, Dodger fans at Pink's Hot Dogs in L.A. are hoping their drought is over.
I cried when they made it. I cried. My daughter recorded me on her phone. She was going to post it on Snapchat or Instagram, and I made her not to. I said I would take away her phone because I screamed. My neighbors came over to make sure I was okay. I wasn't having a heart attack or something. But I cried. Tears of joy. It's awesome.
The wait is over. The Dodgers are going back to the World Series.
Bird into center. Springer says he's got it. The Houston Astros win the pennant.
They faced the Houston Astros, a town trying to get back on its feet after Hurricane Harvey. Both teams were dominant through most of the regular season.
Culberson picks it up from his knees.
This will be the first time since 1970 that 2 teams who have won at least 100 games will meet in the World Series. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. We'll have a look at the latest legal maneuverings over a leaked memo at San Diego City Hall. And on Midday Edition, you can hear the first episode of the new KPBS podcast, Rad Scientist, trying to bridge the gap between what scientists know and what we should know about scientists. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/Evening Edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.